the 4 returns of real estate. That's where I want to talk a little bit and just create some framework around real estate. So return number 1 is cash on cash. Let's say, for example, you have a property that you have $2,000 a month coming in rent and a $1,500 a month mortgage payment. That $500 difference between there is income or your cash on cash return. That's return number 1. Return number 2 is appreciation. So let's say that you have a $500,000 property that appreciates 5% next year. That increases $25,000 in value. That's 5% on the $500,000. So your property next year is worth $525,000. Remember, we started talking about increasing your net worth. That increases that net worth. And so that's critically important to your long-term financial plan. The third is principal pay down. So as you have, use that same example, I've got $2,000 a month coming in rent. I have a $1,500 a month payment. Well, $300 of that payment is probably principal pay down. The beautiful part about this is that the tenant is paying down your debt on that, which increases your net worth. And that makes real estate really fascinating. I just pause there and give an example. Putting money proactively into your 401k, you're putting that money in. You may get a match from your organization, or putting money into an IRA or a mutual fund. You're putting all that money in. One of the fascinating parts about real estate is that someone else is funding and paying your asset down and creating your net worth. So really fascinating on the difference there. And then the fourth is depreciation. So I want to talk a little bit about each of these in a little bit more detail. The cash-on-cash return is pretty straightforward, but there's some interesting components to that. I'm going to break down and run you through some income statements in a little bit on this. But most often, your cash-on-cash return, when you're starting out, is, if you're lucky, break even. Sometimes it's even negative. So let's talk about, if that was negative $200 a month, most people will look at it and say, don't buy. Remember when I talked about in the beginning, if you have a vision of where you're going, if you're just focused on that one thing, it may cost you something. And so we'll talk about how that changes over time when I get some examples up to illustrate that. But on cash, that does not always need to be positive, because you've got the 3 other areas that can help you out. Appreciation. Now, this is a really fascinating one. Property values go up over time. Think back on your life experience. This is one you can have quite a bit of confidence in. As you look back, values have gone up over time. It's because people want that. Maybe on the appreciation, share a story that I think is relevant on how you create appreciation. I was asked to teach I teach financial literacy in several Title I schools here throughout Utah, in the high schools, but I was asked to come teach a group of 7th graders last year about why I do what I do in my career. And I thought about that as I went. I was trying to teach them some financial principles. Here's what I came up with. So as I went into the class, I was trying to explain to them, why do I do what I do? And so I asked them, what does home mean to you? And as I listened to their answers came back with things like this. Well, it's where my family is. It's my safe place. It's where my Xbox is. It's where my cat is. It's where my friends can come. That was home. Why do I do what I do, and why do I love the mortgage banking industry and just being tied in all things housing? It changes society. It changes society. It changes your life. It provides more security. Crime goes down in neighborhoods as people own assets that they care about. People get more engaged in their school systems. It's just, I love what I do because I believe it's changing society. And so I was trying to explain this to these 7th graders. Now, phase 2, I asked them this question: what does appreciation mean to you? As I saw their curious little minds working, they were sitting in little pods of 4 with four buddies there. And as I asked them, what does appreciation mean to you? They answered it. They said, well, it's to be thankful. I said, that's correct. So if you're thankful and you appreciate your 4 little friends sitting there, what does that look like? They started to give me answers like, well, I'd share my lunch with them maybe. I'd invite them to play at recess, or I'd invite them to my home. I'd say nice things about them. I said, that's correct. What happens to your relationship over time if you appreciate each other? Well, it grows and gets stronger. It's an economic principle. So I asked them the different question, what's depreciation? And at that point they said, all right, we lost you, old man, we don't know. And so I said, well, it's the opposite of appreciation. And so if you've got your 4 little buddies, what if you start to talk bad about them? You're mean to them. You fight with them. You don't invite them over. And you really exclude them. What happens to your relationship over time? Well, it goes away. That's depreciation. And that's an economic principle as well. So one of the fascinating things about home ownership, people appreciate what those 7th graders described as home. The emotional desire to have home. Security, safety, where my family is, my cat. They will actually fight for that, and they will live in division for that. And that actually puts incredible demand on housing, which pushes those prices up because people appreciate it. And so there's an economic principle when you look at, is the stock market going to go up? Is housing going to go up? That's a powerful, just simple way to look at it because I think we all relate to that feeling and desire to have home. Principal pay down. That one's pretty straightforward and self-explanatory as other people are paying that down. That increases your net worth. The 4th one, depreciation. Now let's talk about this one for just a minute. The basic concept of depreciation. Once again, you will want to consult with your tax advisor on this. These rules are very different whether you're a qualified real estate investor or not in how you take deductions. So I'm just going to talk about the principles and the theory here to give you an illustration. Let's say that you have a home that's worth $400,000. What you do is you take the value of the land out of that. Let's just say that that's $100,000. That leaves us with $300,000. On a single-family residence, they're going to take that $300,000 and divide that by 27 and a half years. That's going to work out, let's say that's probably roughly $10,900, $11,000 range in what that breaks down to. And you now get to take that as a deduction on your tax return, which means your taxable income goes down, reduces the taxes, means more net income into your pocket you can now go put to work. So that's one principle. Commercial real estate's over a 39.5-year period, I believe, off the top of my head. But there's also, you can do what's called a cost segregation. So let's go back to our scenario. If you have a house that's worth $400,000, $100,000 is the land. We take that out. We have $300,000 left. Well, you can hire a third-party firm to come in and segregate or segment the rest of that property. Just give you some examples. Once again, this will just be principles. But let's say that they come in and say the carpet's worth $20,000, and let's say that the electrical is worth $30,000, and you get the idea. They segment this home down. Well, the IRS allows each of those categories to be taken at different depreciation schedules. Some 3 years, some 5 years, some 7, some 15, and then the remainder that was left that wasn't able to be accelerated would be left on that 27.5-year term. So let's say that one of those items was $30,000 over a 3-year period. Now you can take $10,000 a year 1, 2, and 3, which accelerates that whole 27.5-year breakdown. And so this is a tool that you can use to be able to help get some very, very significant tax deductions right now to help lower your tax bracket, get a lot more cash in your pocket that you can go put to work to help accelerate your wealth plan. Once again, it's very important you're talking to a tax advisor and accountant on this because there are limitations on whether you can take that full amount year 1 or not. And so this is something you'll want to talk through, but I just wanted to give you the basic concept so you have a framework to be able to at least ask the right questions if it applies to you. Don't hesitate to connect with me. 801-628-6771 is my cell phone number. You can find me on social media, on LinkedIn, and lots of different social platforms. I just invite you to reach out. This is what I love to do. I hope you can see that. It's why I continue on in the career. Real estate has changed my life. Understanding these principles has changed our family's life and our ability to live on purpose and go after our dreams. And that's what I really invite you to have the courage to reach out and to find that plan. Don't just flounder on your own and say, well, I wonder about this, and be back to investing on your own. We want to be able to be a resource to help you effectively capture your dreams. So reach out today.